Israel has had a very long history right now of opening fire on unarmed Palestinians when there is no direct threat to life. And it's a way really of putting Palestinians back in their place and telling them they have to accept the squalid conditions they live under. You know, we're talking about Nakba, and there was a time when Palestinians wanted to view the Nakba as a historic event. They were looking for a practical way to resolve the conflict, you know, through a two-state solution or whatever. But now Israel has blocked every single avenue there is to Palestinian freedom and independence. No independent state of their own. That's been taken off the table with the support of the Trump administration. No right of return. And anybody who mounts a meaningful protest, even when it's an unarmed one, are receiving live bullets for it. Frankly, it's an unacceptable situation. And even though there have been condemnations throughout the world, you know, different countries withdrawing their ambassadors or summoning the ambassadors or expelling them in the case of Turkey, the Israeli ambassador from Turkey, we're really past that point. These kinds of actions are not sufficient. The Palestinians have endured occupation and confinement and siege and injustice for far too long.
Omar, the Israelis say that several of those who were killed on Monday were members of Hamas. They've been identified that way. But let's just suppose that the majority of them were not. What does Israel possibly gain by shooting unarmed Palestinians, given the PR debacle it has caused for them around the world?
It is absolutely a PR debacle for them, but at the same time, I think they're more interested in intimidating the Palestinians directly than they are about worrying about public relations. At this point, when the single most powerful country in the world under Donald Trump has given them a complete, total blank check to do whatever they want, I think PR has become a secondary concern. The Netanyahu government is a pretty extreme one. The coalition government, you know, he's pretty far right on the spectrum from an American standpoint, and in Israel he's considered a centrist. Most of the opposition that he faces comes from his right. So within that kind of context, I think PR is a secondary concern, and what they really want to do is make sure that Palestinians do not mount an effective protest against the injustice they live under. They genuinely do not view them as an equal people who are deserving of rights, and therefore they feel basically no moral qualms about opening fire on them and telling them they have to go back to their open-air prison.
We see the video that's been playing while you've been speaking, and we see some of the Palestinians throwing rocks and bottles and Molotov cocktails. What do those Palestinians gain by doing that at a border fence?
Look, it's probably not the best idea to engage in any of that kind of behavior, but at the end of the day, when we're talking about a population in Gaza that has been under siege for now over a decade, where water, 97% of drinking water is not fit for human consumption in Gaza. They're not allowed to travel. They're not allowed to communicate with the outside world. No commerce, no airport, no going into the sea. The fact that people have been confined under these kinds of conditions, I frankly don't think that it's particularly useful to opine about what drives them to certain actions that might or might not be helpful under specific circumstances. I think the brunt of the outrage has to be directed at the fact that they have been confined to this open-air prison for as long as they have.
Omar Badar, Deputy Director of the Arab American Institute.